Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. This is AJ, your host for today. Going to take you through some crazy stories around the world. The world has indeed gone crazy. Well, the Western world anyway. So, from the video you just seen, it just shows the Russian spirits. There's basically a video of the Russian ruble beating up the dollar. And do you remember when the sanctions were first placed months ago, and Biden and Ursula von der Leyen basically stood up in front of all of the people and were saying, "Oh, the ruble is going to turn into rubble. You know, the people are suffering in Russia. These sanctions will destroy Russia. The sanctions will destroy Russian economy. People will rise up. People will kick out Putin." Has all of that really come into effect? Of course not. Of course it hasn't. You know, a few channels such as mine, Duran, and just a few by the way, not many YouTube channels were actually talking about the truth. I mean, you just have to look out Visual Politic, for example, and they're such anti-Russian. I just can't believe how anti-Russian these guys are, and spreading all sorts of lies. Then you got other channels like TLDR. I don't know if you guys seen TLDR, some British guy who's completely, I don't know how he's got so many followers. He's just talking nonsense, that guy, saying how Russia's losing and all of that crap. And loads of other channels, Caspian Report and many other geopolitics channels. And how stupid do these channels look now? They must be looking back and thinking, oh crap, I've been reporting all sorts of BS and lies to all my followers. This is the same way that Biden, Boris, Ursula von der Leyen, they must be feeling really stupid as well. Then you have all the mainstream media, they must be feeling really stupid with all the anti-Russian fake propaganda, Russia's losing, all of that nonsense news over the past few months. They must be feeling really dumb. And a lot of people are brainwashed. They like to get themselves brainwashed. I don't know whether it's the social media that's doing it or something else, but people have gone more stupid as the years have gone past. I realize, you know, people should be getting more and more intelligent with every year that goes by. You know, humans should be becoming more intelligent, but looks like they're going backwards. They're going backwards, back in the Stone Age. People like yourselves who are independent thinkers, you know, I gotta have all my respects for you guys. You know, you guys are a very dying breed. You're probably 1% of the population on Earth. You know, gotta give you guys a lot of respect to having that intellectual capacity to think independently and not listen to mainstream media or not follow the lies in social media and also the politicians. So you can see what the EU has done. They have shot themselves in the foot yet again by sanctioning Russian oil. They've also sanctioned Russia's biggest bank as well from SWIFT. So you can see the stupidness has not really stopped. Ursula von der Leyen, which I think is a Russian agent, by the way, and I'm going to explain that in a bit later on. I think Ursula is a secret Russian agent out there to destroy Europe, and she's doing a good job. You know, you must say she's doing a good job, a great job. I think Boris is also a Russian agent, and maybe even Zelensky is a Russian agent as well. Who knows? Maybe even Biden. Together they are basically improving the Russian economy, improving the Russian ruble. They are making all the Russian people stand up together with Putin. They are helping the Russians so much and destroying the European Union in the same way that they must be Russian agents, right? I think Russia is sitting back, laughing and clapping at these guys at work, thinking, great job, man, great job, guys, well done. And I'm going to explain that a bit later on. But before I do, I want to show you this clip of how humans used to think. And there was a time when we used to question stuff that's happening around the world. We used to question stuff that's happening in Iraq. People used to stand up and question the leaders. It doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen anymore. And I'm just wondering why. Are we going backwards as a race or something? Let me show you this clip and and I can explain a bit better. People were calling people out back then. It doesn't seem to happen anymore. It just does not seem to happen anymore at all. I just think we've lost a lot of our humanity over the years. I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's brainwashing by the social media or something. Something's happened to us which doesn't allow us to question people higher up in authority. So if somebody like Boris says, we're going to send weapons to Ukraine, we're going to fight the Russians, why is there nobody questioning him? Why is there nobody questioning the United States, Biden? Why is everyone going along with this narrative? I want to show you this.
All right, we have a questioner here. Gentleman in the white shirt, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Secretary Albright. Why bomb Iraq when other countries have committed similar violations? Turkey, for example. Can I finish? For example, Turkey has bombed Kurdish citizens. Saudi Arabia has tortured political and religious dissidents. Why does the U.S. apply different standards of justice to these countries?
Let me say...
You can see her face. She does not like, basically people asking her these kind of questions. Why don't people ask these kind of questions to the current Defense Secretary of State or to Biden? It's absolutely ridiculous how we lost our voice over the years. It's really shameful.
Say that when there are problems such as you have described, we point them out and make very clear our opposition to them. But there is no one that has done to his people or to his neighbors what Saddam Hussein has done, or what he is thinking about doing. I am very...
About Indonesia. Well, you've turned my microphone off.
Show that Saddam Hussein has produced weapons of mass destruction, which he's clearly not collecting for his own personal pleasure, but in order to use, and therefore he is qualitatively and quantitatively different from every brutal dictator that has appeared recently, and we are very concerned about him specifically and what his plans might be.
Thank you. My microphone is off. There we are. What do you have to say about dictators of countries like Indonesia, who we sell weapons to, yet they are slaughtering people in East Timor? What do you have to say about Israel, who is slaughtering Palestinians, who impose martial law? What do you have to say about that? Those are our allies. Why do we sell weapons to these countries? Why do we support them? Why do we bomb Iraq when it commits similar problems?
You can see her face, she doesn't know how to answer that. So you see, my point is, back then in the Iraq war times, there was a lot of people with voices that were questioning what was happening around the world. Back then in Vietnam, they had a lot of voices questioning what America was doing in Vietnam. Muhammad Ali was one of them. So why is there nobody questioning what's happening with Ukraine? Why is there nobody standing up and say, hang on a second, this is BS. This is absolute BS. We're not going to take this kind of news because this is wrong. This is fake. People are just taking all of this news like it's butter. People are so easily brainwashed nowadays. I am so ashamed of the human race, just going backwards. You see YouTubers, you see media brainwashing the public, saying that Russia's gone into Ukraine for no apparent reason at all. No apparent reason. Doesn't make any sense. When you have two people fighting in the streets, there's always a reason, and there's a story on both sides. You need to separate them and find out the story on both sides, then make a decision. It's just not happening nowadays. Nowadays, Russia's the bad guy, Ukraine's the good guy, apparently. And that's the narrative people are being fed in social media, in the mainstream media, by the politicians. And people are falling for it, hook, line and sinker. You know, even now people are still thinking that the Russians are losing and the Ukrainians are winning. So Russia is not collapsing. The ruble is not collapsing. People are not standing up against Putin. Everything is working as normal in Russia. The inflation is actually going down in Russia. They are making so much money in Russia. The countries who are suffering are Europe, Britain, the collective West. I want to show you this as well. Eurozone inflation creeps higher. Britain's warned of winter blackouts. German inflation nears 50-year high. Russia cuts off gas to Netherlands. Denmark faces Russian gas supply cut. Poland halts free fuel supplies to Ukraine. Japan faces summer of price hikes. So you see, things are not really looking very good for the collective West. The oil prices have reached around $120 a barrel, I believe. And now that China is coming out of lockdown, I can see the oil prices and gas prices start shooting up even more. Because China was in lockdown, the demand wasn't very high for oil and gas over the past month or two. But now I can see China going full steam ahead with all the oil and gas purchases, and also with this Russian oil ban that the EU has announced. It's just going to bring up prices even more. And the people who are going to be suffering are the Europeans themselves. I mean, this is an absolute joke, absolute joke. So it says here, let's go over this, shall we? EU member states have agreed to ban 90% of Russian oil imports by the end of this year, as part of the latest Ukraine-related sanctions against Moscow. And other sanctions they've placed against Russia is they put Russia's biggest bank, they've taken that out of SWIFT as well. So they can see all of this stuff is not working, and yet they still pushing it. Ursula von der Leyen. So it's not Hungary the only country that has fought for this, by the way. You can see other countries have also fought for it as well, including Slovakia, Czech Republic, Bulgaria and Croatia. And they are alarmed by the potential impact on their economies. The Czech Republic have been reportedly granted an 18-month exemption, and Bulgaria has been excluded from the embargo until end of 2024, so they've got a couple of years. And basically Hungary is the only country who has been exempt by sea, so by pipeline they can still get Russian oil. The bad news, there is bad news by the way, the bad news is Ukraine has threatened to cut off this oil pipeline running to Hungary. And I believe they're going to do this very soon, if not in the next few months. Because this oil pipeline actually goes through Ukraine and into Hungary. So the EU have said that to Hungary that oil pipelines are not part of the sanctions, so they can carry on taking oil from this pipeline. But you can see from Ukraine, they have threatened to cut this pipeline off. They have already cut off a gas pipeline going into Hungary. They did that a few weeks ago. And I can really see Ukraine cutting off this oil pipeline to Hungary in the next few weeks, or even the next few months. We shall see. You cannot rely on you cannot rely on Ukraine at all. So it seems like Hungary might be in a very, very difficult situation if this happens. I also want to go through this article as well. You can see oil prices are set to surge higher this summer. And they're talking about oil prices reaching 150 or even 200 by the end of the year if things carry on the way they are. The British papers have changed their tune a lot. When I say a lot, I'm talking really a lot. They have changed their tune. And you can see from The Guardian here, the EU should forget about sanctions. They're doing more harm than good. So finally you have a British paper, and I'm not a fan of any British papers by the way, they're all a bunch of idiots. But now you see all of the British papers, they've changed their tune. The BBC was reporting yesterday that Russia was winning after months of saying that Russia was losing. And then you have The Guardian now saying the EU should forget about sanctions. But it's too late. They've already added the sanctions. This was written 22 hours ago. So obviously things have changed in the past few hours. So The Guardian is saying they should forget about sanctions because these sanctions are doing more harm than good. And, you can see a lot of British papers changing. However, not all British papers are changing, mind you. Not all British papers. I saw this in the Metro today. Russian army on the verge of collapse. Can you believe this crap? And then I saw this the other day. Vladimir Putin could be dead with a body double being used. Oh my god. So you can see the petrol price hits record after EU bans Russian oil. So the people are the ones that are going to be suffering first. Ursula von der Leyen is not going to suffer. So she's got probably lots of money given by the Europeans, given by the Americans, to basically have this anti-Russian narrative. So she's probably baking in money at the moment. Same with any other EU leader who's actually pushing for sanctions against Russia. So they're not going to be affected. The people who are going to be affected are the real everyday people. So when the petrol prices rise, that means that cost of living is just going to go up even more. Because when you have delivery trucks who have to pay for more petrol, when you have Amazon drivers have to pay for more petrol, when you have to ship goods around the world, which requires more oil and gas and petrol, if that petrol price goes up, then the cost of everything else is going to go up. The cost of all raw materials is going to go up. Cost of deliveries, everything will start shooting up. It doesn't really matter about what the central bank does with the inflation, whether it's increasing interest rates. All of that stuff is not going to matter. If the petrol price increases, the cost of living will increase. That's just a given. So these central banks and increasing interest rates is just making life worse for the people, because this just means the cost of living is going up, and they also have to pay more for their mortgage, they have to pay more for loans. A lot of people are in debt. Even after the pandemic, a lot of people are in debt. They've been taking loans out, and now you have to pay more interest on these loans. A lot of people are going to be suffering. Already I'm seeing a lot of issues with people not being able to pay their rent, not being able to pay their mortgage. People don't know whether they should feed themselves or heat their homes. Now that it's summer, things will probably get better, but winter's only a few months away. We're in end of May now, and we're coming up to June, and then you've got June, July, August, September, October, November. So it gets cold around November time, especially in England. But 6 months is not a long time. I just can't believe how the brains of these European leaders work. Ursula von der Leyen is not even an elected leader, and she's single-handedly destroying the European Union. I saw someone post something on Twitter the other day, and it made me laugh. And basically, people are saying that Ursula von der Leyen and Zelensky, they're agents of Putin. They're basically working for Russia. They're secret agents of Russia. Because everything that they are doing, they are destroying the European Union, European economy, and they're helping the Russian economy. So everything that these Zelenskys and Boris and Ursula have been doing over the past few months, all they've been doing is improving the Russian economy. They're improving the gas prices and oil prices, meaning Russia makes more money. They have increased the ruble, and now the ruble is the fastest rising and the best performing currency in the world today. And the ruble is better now than it ever was. It's doing better than it was before the pre-sanctions. And it's helping the Russian people to rise up against the world, against the West, and stand up with Putin shoulder to shoulder. They have given more land to Russia, not just Crimea, but Donbass, Luhansk, and more land will be going into Russia over the next few months. Because of them, they have turned off all of the gas and oil to Europe, and they're going to send Europe into the Middle Ages. They have destroyed the economy and the manufacturing of all of these industries in Europe, especially in Germany and UK. They have ruined the lives of farmers, entrepreneurs. They have kicked out all competition from Russia, like McDonald's, Starbucks, and they're going to help the Russian economy. All of these Russian entrepreneurs are going to be rising up. They have pushed Russia to China. You know, China must be laughing right now. They have literally pushed China and Russia into such a strong alliance. They are now doing bombing runs together. For example, when Biden visited Asia, you know, China and Russia were having joint patrols in the sky over South Korea. They were doing joint patrols over Japan. You see, Russia and China militarily can take on anyone, can take on America, NATO, and Europe at the same time. You know, look at Russia right now in Ukraine. NATO and Europe together cannot stand against Russia. If they could, they would have been bombing Russia to smithereens, but they can't. You know, and now you have the might of China as well. They have literally pushed these two countries together. They have made people like Boris, Scholz, Ursula von der Leyen, Biden, a bunch of fools. They're literally lying in front of their people, telling them that the Russian economy is about to collapse. Well, it hasn't collapsed. And how many times have you seen these fools talk about how Russia is losing the war? You know, Russia is definitely not losing. It's Ukraine that is losing. It's Europe that is losing. Russia is not losing. Russia is gaining. They are gaining land, agricultural land, oil, gas, natural resources, all from east part of Ukraine. Russia will gain that. So who's winning at the end? Of course Russia's going to be winning. You have British papers saying, oh, Russia's only gained a little bit of land. It's not too much. It's only a small parcel. If you look at the map of how much land that Russia's gained from Ukraine, it's 2 times the size of England, maybe more. So it's not a little piece of land. I just can't believe the amount of BS that comes out of British papers and American papers and Western papers. These agents of Russia have also helped denazify Ukraine. They have helped Russia in so many ways. They have helped Russia to push for alternatives to SWIFT. They have helped Russia to help de-dollarize the dollar around the world. You know, these agents of Russia have helped so much to Russia. So Russia thanks all of these agents. They thank Zelensky. They thank Ursula. They thank Boris. They thank Biden. Doesn't make them any clever though. These guys are still idiots. But yeah, Russia is thanking these agents of Russia who have helped Russia become much more powerful than they were before this special military operation. So Russia thanks you from the bottom of their heart. By the way, do any of you guys look at Telegram? It's a really good way of seeing what's really happening around the world instead of seeing lots of fake news from Twitter and all of that crap. So you can see from the briefing from the Russian Defense Ministry, 152 bodies were found stored in a van with a broken cooling system. And you can see the amount of lives are being lost in Ukraine for no reason, no apparent reason whatsoever. They can easily come up with a surrender and save loss of lives, save loss of kind of Ukrainian land. But it might be too late now. You know, Russia doesn't trust Zelensky anymore or the West, so it might be just too late. But they had their chances. They could have done this before the war started, or they could have done this in Istanbul. I believe a surrender was happening in Istanbul when Boris flew all the way to Ukraine, and he said, "Yo, Zelensky, don't do it, bro. Just don't do it. We're going to give you weapons. You're going to win this war. You're going to win this war. Just don't surrender. You are winning. We will give you everything you need, money, weapons." And Zelensky got a bit excited like a kid. And he thought, yeah, alright then. Forget the surrender. I'll go with you guys. So you can see a lot of news here that you're not going to see anywhere else. Then you have stories such as this disabled guy is getting drafted in the Ukrainian army. It's ridiculous stuff that's going on that you're not going to see anywhere else in the news. Looks like the Ukrainian army is running out of people, so they're getting disabled people, they're getting old people drafted as well. Nobody's safe, and I've even seen young kids, 14, 15, who are also being drafted as well. And you see a lot of stuff here that you don't see in the news, everyday news, and you see a lot of Azov guys and Ukrainian soldiers talking bad about Zelensky, how they've been, how they've been left behind and with no help, no weapons. They've been literally been abandoned. And for example, this story is not going to be reported in the West. So this damaged building that you see is basically the Sich factory. And the Sich factory is Ukrainians' #1 defense company, and it makes a lot of engines like airplane engines, helicopter engines. It makes a lot of parts for weapons. So it used to be owned by the Chinese. So the Chinese entrepreneurs actually bought a huge stake in the company, and they were building engines and they were shipping them off to China. The Americans were very, very worried about this technology falling into Chinese hands. So what they did was they told Zelensky to stop this, and Zelensky basically decided to kick these Chinese out, and he nationalized the company. So the Chinese had actually lost billions of money investing in this company, and the next day they basically been kicked out. They had no stake in the company whatsoever. Zelensky, with American backing, basically as a poodle, he listened to whatever America said, and he basically kicked out the Chinese and nationalized the company. So this is what happens when you nationalize the company. It's not owned by the Chinese anymore. So because it's not owned by the Chinese, Russia's basically blew the building into smithereens. A lot of Chinese companies who are operating in Ukraine, nothing's happened to them because China and Russia have got a very good understanding. So any Chinese companies operating in Russia, they're not being touched at all. In fact, there are still Chinese workers still working on them. They haven't been evacuated. So they are working as usual, working as normal. But since Zelensky has nationalized this company, it's not part of China anymore. So this is why Russia has completely destroyed it. And this company was one of the bright spots of Ukraine, making Ukraine a lot of money, giving Ukraine a lot of technology. They were selling parts all over the world. They were making a lot of money. And now this company is now reduced to rubble, as you can see. So they deserve it, to be honest. Zelensky deserves it. They deserve it. And the Chinese don't really care anymore because they've been kicked out. And this is what happens if you follow the West, if you follow your masters in America, and totally deserve it, totally deserve it. There are other things in Telegram as well, which I'm not allowed to show. Things like dead bodies, Ukrainian bodies, hundreds and hundreds of Ukrainians surrendering per day. Ukrainians have stopped counting the amount of dead bodies now. They don't count them anymore. And it's such a shame, really. It's just a shame. They are ruining the young generation of Ukraine. And these young men, could have done a lot for Ukraine. They could have been budding entrepreneurs, could have done a lot for society, but they're just being killed or they are being injured. And these injuries, war injuries, are not small injuries like you get a little scratch on your arm or little scratch on your face. Nothing like that. You get your legs blown off, your hands blown off. And don't forget all of the PTSD that you're going to be suffering afterwards as well. Ukraine is losing a whole generation, and they're not going to recover anytime soon if they don't stop this war. Zelensky's alright. He's got billions in the bank. He can easily run away to Britain and live like a king. He can run away to Florida where he's got a mansion as well. He can live like a king. He's got billions in the bank. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the Ukrainian people. As soon as this war is over, that's it. He's gone. He's gone. Ukraine is destroyed. He's done his job. He'll be living like a king while everyone else in Ukraine suffers. The people who follow this guy blindly really need to wake up. Seriously, you really need to wake up. If you don't want to see the truth, you follow all of these media lies. And those of you who have been following the mainstream media and you're completely believing in this false narrative, shame on you. You have an open mind. Whenever there's an argument in the streets between two people, you're not going to go and support one of them, are you? You're going to want to listen to both sides of the story. Both people have a reason for fighting. There's always a reason for two people to fight. And you've got to listen to both sides of the story, then make a decision. What's happening in the world right now with RT being banned? Nobody's allowed to say anything bad about Ukraine. Nobody's allowed to say anything good about Russia. Basically, you only have one voice in the media right now. Only one voice. That's Russia is losing, Ukraine is winning. Ukraine are the good guys and Russia are the bad guys. That's the only voice that you've been told. You need to wake up. You really need to wake up. And the people who follow my channel, people who follow Duran and George Galloway, you guys are independent thinkers. And I've got to take my hat off to you. You're only 1% of the world population. Only 1%. If you look at the amount of people who follow these pro-Ukrainian channels and pro-Ukrainian news channels and YouTube channels, you guys are a very small minority. I would say probably 1% or even less than 1%. So hats off to you guys. Total respect for you having an open mind to see the truth. You guys are a dying breed, and I just hope more of you out there who can kind of look at what's happening and just think, hang on a second. I'm being fed all of these lies. Britain is a lost cause, guys. You can see the sterling could face an existential crisis, analysts warn. The sterling is going down really big time. Inflation's shooting up. And I went to get some pasta the other day, and I realized the cost of pasta has gone really, really high. And you can see here, budget pasta prices jump 50% as food staples rise. And I've been telling a lot of people, start stocking up on food, start stocking up on pasta, start stocking up on rice, vegetable oil, sunflower oils, stuff like that is just going to shoot up in price over the next few months. And I've been telling a lot of people, and it's already happening. And it's going to carry on happening. There's problems with British airports. Basically flights are being cancelled left, right and centre because they just can't afford it. They just can't afford it anymore. There's so many flights are being cancelled. Petrol prices are shooting up. Flights are just, they can't even fly over Russia anymore, so they have to fly a longer distance, which means more petrol, more gas. I just don't know how these European flights and British flights can keep their business. They just can't. It's chaos at the moment in the airports in England. Absolute chaos. The pound is going down. England is pretty much going down. People are in denial. I just go out every single day and I talk to everyday people. People are in denial. You ask them about high food prices, cost of living, and they're like, yeah, I know it's bad, But when you ask them, what are you going to do about it? They just don't have an answer. So ask them, is this the government's fault or is this your fault? And they're like, yeah, it's the government's fault. So ask them again, what are you going to do about it? Oh, I cannot vote for them in the next general election. And I'm thinking, mate, the next general election is not going to matter. How long is the next general election? And how do you know when the next government comes in, whether it's Labour or a Tory, that they're going to do any better? This is the democracy. People need to rise up. People need to stand up against the government. People need to ask questions. Exactly the same clip that I showed you in the beginning of this video. People need to stand up against these liars like Boris, van der Leyen, with Biden. People need to stand up against these fools and just question everything they're doing. Go out, protest. Nobody's doing it. Everyone's just fed these lies, this BS. Finally, I want to talk about this story. Israel aims to fill Europe's energy void. So can anyone tell me, how the hell does Israel expect to fill up Europe's gas and oil needs? How? That little country of Israel. Not only that, I'm hearing stories about Israel stealing other people's gas and oil. I'm talking about Lebanon. They are taking gas and oil from Lebanon's waters, apparently. And what about the Palestinians? Do they not have rights to any oil and gas? They are stealing a lot of Middle Eastern oil and gas. Even if they steal all of that, it's still not enough to fill up Europe. Israel only provides a small percentage of gas and oil to the rest of the world compared to Russia. It just does not have enough. And I think a lot of countries, especially Europe, are relying on American LNG, American oil, American gas. I'll tell you one thing, do not rely on America. You just have to look at the example when COVID hit. And then America stopped supplying COVID vaccines to the rest of the world because they needed it for their own people. How many people around the world died because of that? You have Brazil, who are relying on American vaccines. Suddenly no vaccines came from America. They decided to put a stop to it. And how many Brazilians died? Hundreds and thousands. Same thing will happen, in the future when America looks at their own energy needs and they feel that, oh no, we don't have enough to give to Europe. We can't supply Europe anymore because we have our own energy needs. Don't forget, a couple of years' time, Trump will be back in power and he's going to have an America First policy. Everything that Biden has done is going to be thrown out the window. And then it's going to be back to America First policy, and all of these European leaders are going to they're going to be looking like fools, absolute fools. Whether it's Boris, whether it's van der Leyen, or Scholz, or anyone who have been blindly following America, banning all Russian gas and oil, And they're going to be made to look like idiots. Because Trump is going to be back. He's going to be like, America first. No, we're not going to supply Europe any oil and gas. We need to be supplying our own, we have our own needs. And energy, you know, every year people need more and more energy. Every single year. You have electric cars coming up. Electric cars need more energy. You need more energy from the grid to power these electric cars. Your phones are becoming more and more powerful every year. Your TVs are becoming more powerful. More people need more energy. You know, nowadays you have the IoT devices, Internet of Things. Every single thing has got semiconductor these days. Your fridge, your cooker, you know, everything needs more energy. Every year people have more energy needs. That means more oil is needed, more gas is needed. You know, sometimes renewables is not enough because people's energy needs are growing day by day. Then you have your developing countries as well. And developing countries, people who used to be poor are not poor anymore. Now they can afford cars. Now they can afford TVs. Now they can afford phones. They will need more energy. So you have people in India, you have so many poor people in India. They're going to need more and more energy. And all of this stuff, you know, oil and gas, where's it going to come from? You've got to provide more and more energy in this world. People are needing more energy. And there will come a time when it doesn't matter how much energy America produces, whether it's gas or oil, they will need it for themselves. You know, they need to power these electric cars. They need to power their industries. If they don't have the energy, how are they going to power it up? So I will tell you right now, when Trump comes into power, it's going to be America first again policy. And all of these European leaders who shot themselves in the foot, they're going to look at themselves thinking, oh my God, we made a big mistake with Russia. We made a big mistake banning oil and gas from Russia. Now we want it back. It's going to be too late by then. It's going to be too late because Russia by then will have built, you know, oil pipelines going into China. They would have had pipelines going into India. They're not going to need Europe anymore. And when Europe comes crawling back to Russia saying, you know what, we made a mistake, we want to buy your oil and we want to buy your gas, Russia's going to be like, sorry, no. Everything's going into China now, everything's going to India, everything's going into Asia. Sorry, we don't have any left for you anymore. It's too late. And that's when Europe is going to suffer. Their industry is going to suffer. And they're going to be going back into the dark ages. And they had themselves to blame. EU has themselves to blame for all of this. I just can't believe the EU is putting all their trust into this woman, Ursula von der Leyen. And the UK putting all of their trust into Boris. These leaders are bringing the EU down into the dark ages. I just can't believe people are allowing this to happen. In a few years' time, people will see the truth and think, you know what? Ursula has destroyed us. Boris has destroyed us. Scholz has destroyed us. But it'll be too late by then. Anyway, that's all I have time for, guys. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want to join my Patreon, I'd really appreciate it. Or you can buy me a coffee. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.